Hey everyone, today I learned about Amazon AWS VPC Peering. VPC Peering allows you to communicate with another VPC within your account or another person's account if they obviously give permission. Peering is needed to access another VPC's resources because VPCs are isolated by default. Now, an important thing to note about Amazon VPC is that the connections are not transitive. This means that a network request cannot go from one pair connection to another pair connection. Alright? So, in effect, each connection is a one-to-one connection in which requests can only be sent from one VPC to another VPC. So now, if you're a little bit confused, allow me to introduce an example. So let's say you are paired with VPC 1 and VPC 2. So that is one connection that you have between 1 and 2. Now, let's say you have another VPC peering connection between VPC 2 and 3. So this means you have two total connections, 1 and 2, then 2 and 3. So now let's say you want to send a request from VPC 1 to 3. Okay? So instead of setting up a connection between VPC 1 and 3, you decide to send it to VPC 1 and 2, the first connection, then send that request from that first connection to the second connection, which is VPC 2 to 3. Alright? Now this architecture will not work. Alright? And that's because a connection is a one-way street, meaning that it can only be sent requests from the VPCs that you have within that connection. So since VPC 1 and 3 are not a connection, you will not be able to forward your request from VPC 1 to VPC 2, which is your first connection, and then send that to another connection because there's no way of sending it to that other peering connection. Alright? Essentially, very simply, what I'm trying to say is that only two VPCs are allowed to communicate per connection made. So only two VPCs, right, can be able to communicate with each other per each connection. In the case of us, you have your first connection between 1 and 2, the second connection between 2 and 3, right? So only requests that originate from VPC 2 can go to VPC 3. Right? Only network requests that originate from VPC 1 can go to VPC 2 and vice versa for those combinations. Alright, so another thing to note is that VPC peering stays within the AWS network and is never exposed to the general public internet, which means that there's no way to attack a connection as it is hidden from the general internet. Right? So this adds an extra layer of security. Okay, now that you understand the theoretics and all that, which is very good, alright, how do you establish a connection? Well, let me show you right now. So we're going to do it through instances, alright? So essentially, because a VPC is just a cluster with different AWS services, I'm just going to use EC2 to show you that the VPC peering did work. And to start off, right, I'm actually doing the DIY section of CloudQuest, and over here is telling me to configure a VPC peering between developer and finance department VPC. Another thing that I just realized I should talk about is what requester and acceptor VPCs are. Essentially, a requester VPC requests a peering connection, and acceptor VPC will accept or deny that connection. So it's all up to the acceptor to whether to accept the connection and make that connection alive, or deny it and that connection will never go through. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and open my AWS console. Perfect. And so, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to EC2. And then, I'm going to move this. We're going to go to instances. And we are going to be only really focusing on developer and finance department VPCs. So this one is the finance, and this one is the marketing. No, so it's these two. All right. This one is the developer. All right, and both of these are running on two separate VPCs. So let's go ahead and establish this connection so that we can talk to each other, so that we can allow them to talk to each other. First things first, if I try to access this right now, right, we're going to use the private IPv4 address in the developer. And if I try to access this in my finance connection, so I'm going to just use session managers, and I'm just going to connect to my instance. And if I try to ping this now, right? Sorry. I was not supposed to make it capital. But you'll see that it doesn't send me anything. It leaves me on hanging connection because it cannot find this private address. All right. For example, let me do something. Let me ping a website that is actually publicly available, like Google. You can see that I'm actually getting these bytes back, or these packets back, because it is publicly available. But with this connection, this IPv4 address connection, I'm actually not able to get any of it because, again, it's private, right? It's not accessible, and by the end of this, we will get this type of response back because the VPCs will be paired together so that they can communicate with each other, right? So I can try this with my, let's try this with the public IPv4 address. And you'll see it's the same process, right? It doesn't work, and that is because we did not set up the VPC peering, or it's not allowed to be through the routing, right? So let's go ahead and do this now. Okay, I'm going to just cancel out of that. In our case, it's going to be the developer is going to be the requester, and the finance is going to be the acceptor. So to start off, let's actually go to developer, which we were actually on. Now within here, what we want to do is we want to go to our subnet ID. Now that we're here, right, we're in the VPC dashboard, all right? Notice how we're in the VPC dashboard. This is the perfect place to be in. And all of this works the same if you're going to use different services, right? It's all going to work the same. Like if you're using S3 or Elasticache or whatever, it'll work the same, right? These fundamental principles are the exact same. But if we go here, you'll notice at the bottom of Virtual Private Cloud, within this little menu, there is a Peering Connections tab. Click on that. Now that we click on that, you'll see that I actually do have a connection over here. Ignore that. That was from my practice session. But now I'm going to go ahead and create a new peering connection. I'm going to name this with this connotation, because this is what AWS recommends. So it's going to be developer, like that. And so you're going to put like two open and close greater than and less than signs. And then all you want to do is add the finance department. So just finance. All right. Essentially what this means is that developer connects to finance. That's what this little symbol means. Okay, now you'll see that we actually have a VPC ID, and this is the requester. Alright, so remember in our case it's going to be the developer who's the requester. So let's go ahead and find the VPC for the developer. And that is this one, as you can see through the name. Good. Now the VPC ID, this is the acceptor. In our case, that is going to be the finance department. So let's go ahead and pick finance. There we go. Alright. So now I'm going to go ahead and create a peering connection. There you go. Now back in instances, alright. Important thing to note is the private a v4 address. In this case, it's going to be 192. It's going to start with 192, and this one's going to start with 172. All right, and you'll see in a second why this is important. Just to know the first three digits. But now what we're going to do is we are going to go to subnet ID. Oh wait, sorry. Before we even do that, I've missed this step. Sorry. You need to go to actions now, and you just need to accept the request. All right. So this way, what we're essentially doing is where the developer of VPC right now has actively requested to pair, I should say, with the finance VPC, but the finance hasn't given a response back. So with this button, the finance VPC will say, hey, it's okay, go for it. And this all can happen literally within this same console because it's within the same account. But if you were in another account, right, like if you were doing a VPC connection with another account, the other account will have to go to the dashboard and accept the incoming request. I'm going to press accept. And now the finance department said, hey, it's okay, let's connect. Okay, so now that that's all set and good to go, now we need to go to our route table and actually configure it so that we can actually pass network through both those VPCs, right? So we're essentially configuring it so that each of these instances, right, within their VPC, they know about this peering connection that we have built, right? So all we need to do is go to subnet ID again. Now within here, just press on this, right? It'll only be one. And then you want to go to route table. Okay, this is where we can configure our route and our routing for our specific VPC. Then go ahead and click on this. Again, we are in our developer VPC. Go to routes. Go to edit routes. Go to add routes. Now within here, what we're going to do is we are going to first specify the destination, which in our case is going to be 172.0.0.0/16. Alright, and why did I put it like this? This is essentially a CIDR block, right? And it's just allowing us all of the IP addresses within this specific VPC that the finance server is in, right? Because we are in the developer. Wait, yeah, sorry, yeah, we were supposed to do that. My bad. But yeah, anyways, we are within the finance department right now, so we want to allow access to it, right? So just use this. Then here we want to specify peering connection, and then give our developer to finance one over here. Press save changes. You're good to go. Do the same thing with the other VPC, and you're going to do this the opposite this time. Okay, so it's going to be this one. Go to subnet ID. We're navigating to our route table. Go to routes. Alright, I'm just going to move this up, edit routes, and you can see over here I do actually have a peering connection set up, and this was for the practice, but in our case it's going to be with the developer server, and that IP address starts with 192, so we just want to allow all of the IP ranges within the VPC of a developer server, and CIDR block basically creates the IP ranges based on the specific number, which calculates how many IP addresses there should be, right? So we're just allowing all IP addresses, which allows all resources, because all resources are connected to an IP address. And this is just how it has to be done within the edit routes, right? You need to specify a CIDR block. Then what we're going to do is we're going to click on peering connection, and then here we're going to pick developer to finance, not marketing to finance. That was the other peering connection I made, but there we go. As you can see, there are two different peering connections. Press save. Cool.